So there has been a movement of people coming on social media and claiming that they are Jews.
The anti-Semitic stuff you might have said?
Black people can't be anti-Semitic. We are Jew. You understand what I'm saying?
And like the Jewish state of Israel. Jews in general, or the Jewish man, we look at him as the imposter. He's not the original Jewish man.
On the basis that they are black. It's very big in America within the black Hebrew Israelite. It's very specific, black Hebrew Israelite. To them, being Jewish is the color of the skin. That's where they draw their entire identity. And then you have it also down here in Africa and Jamaica and whatnot, within the Rastafari community and whatnot. It's people claiming they are Jews on the basis of skin color. Now, it has only grown bigger with people now reading a Bible verse that says, you know, those that you see as Jews, they are not so. But there's so basically that verse has created another group of people that claim, oh yeah, by the way, that's not the right one. While as the verse was only speaking about God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that particular root measure right there to say that they do not hold to what the blessing of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was all about, which was to being the one that shows the world the relationship between God and man. That's what Israel was there for, or created for. I said created intentionally so. And so a lot of people have gone towards that. It's either they claim being Jewish is black, or Jewish on the basis of, you know, we were the ones who were in slavery and so forth, while as history shows that slavery has been on all ends, but either ways. And so I wanted to talk about this particular subject by pointing to a tribe in Limpopo, or a clan in Limpopo by the name of Lemba. The Lemba people, popularly known as such, is Bashabi, down in Limpopo, an example of this conversation of how we should be as Christians against this movement.
Bashabi is a race.
Of people just claiming being Jewish is that it's black. What it proves when you see the tribes like the Lemba clans and so forth, what that proves is that it has being Jewish, or being Jewish, not necessarily Israeli, right? Being Jewish has nothing to do with skin color. Mostly people that try to claim that have an identity crisis, and they should deal with that. You deal with your identity crisis issues. I'm Venda. I am not Lemba. Okay? As far as I know. And so we should be careful leaning towards these people who deal with identity crisis by claiming another person's identity. That's theft, it's devilish, and it's wicked.
That's still the European borders to a certain degree.
Gotcha.
You know, but if you know that you're Yoruba from Nigeria, then you can now you can pinpoint specific customs and rituals.
Got you.
that are part of your past. If I know that I'm Jola from Guinea-Bissau, I'm naming all the stuff that I found in mine. That I'm Lemba from Sierra Leone.
To me, it's wicked. That's how I label it. And so I want to play you a couple of clips that show they don't just claim it because they have revelation like Abu Zugiswa. No. They go to genetics. They go to scriptural points. They can draw the line of their history that show that they are from that line.
This is an interesting question because when I look at scripturally, there's a time whereby there was a northern and a southern kingdom, and by that time the northern kingdom started having problems, and by that time the tribe of Levi went and joined again the southern kingdom.
Right.
Then after some time the southern kingdom went into an exile. Then when they returned, this is where it gets interesting because that's when it touched the story of the Lemba people.
Okay.
So when you're reading probably the book of Nehemiah and Ezra, it's clear, especially from Ezra chapter 10, the story of the Lemba. We were the majority of the sons of Sennaar, more than 3,000 people from those who returned from the captivity of Babylon. Then from that time now, we had sinned against Adonai. We had violated a number of commandments and, the mitzvot. And from that, the ruling was made that our fathers were supposed to divorce and do away with their wives and so forth. So it's really interesting because they made a decision to go out of the land with their wives. So this is when they left Israel. But one thing which is very interesting, I think, in the story of the Lemba, it became very clear to me when Rabbi was teaching concerning, the land after Cushi. And it became very clear because this, amongst all the Lemba, our fathers, when they started, even when they reached Yemen, when they reached Lake Tanganyika, all the way up to Zimbabwe, they were determined that we are going to the south. So when they reached the south, they built the great Zimbabwe, or the city of stones. It's not just a single building, but the entire premise there.
I wanted to add up to what Pastor Tatra said about our footprints in Israel. How do we know that we came from Israel? Now, if you go to the book of Nehemiah, I can't remember the chapter, verse 35, it talks about a man called Sennaar.
Sennaar, yes.
So I'm happy to tell you that if you had to go back to home to Israel, we left some marks on the way. When our parents went to Yemen, they built a city and named it Sennaar. It's there right today.
Wow.
It's called Sennaar. Now, if you go from Sennaar, they went to Mozambique. If you go to Mozambique, there's a city called Sennaar in Mozambique.
Interesting.
If you come here to Zimbabwe, the Great Zimbabwe, it was supposed to be called Sennaar 4, but only that we are a minority. Our voice was not audible enough to be heard.
Wow.
Then the other group which crossed the Limpopo River, South Africa, they built a city and called it Sennaar. Even today it's called Messina. It's on the way to South Africa. Now, if you go to Israel,
yes,
there's a place near the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
There's a place. It's a city which used to be occupied by the Levites.
Okay.
Now they were surrounded by the Moabites.
Okay.
That's where you get a place called Sennaar also. And on the old map of Israel, there is a place called Lemba.
This is done by the Israeli researchers, right, from Israel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I don't want to dominate the conversation here, but I'm only because I took part in that exercise.
So you were part of this exercise.
I was.
Tell us, when did it take place? When?
At first, there's a friend of mine. His name is Tudo Pafit.
How many years ago? I'm saying this took place.
That is in 1985.
1980?
Yeah, 85.
85. Okay.
Yeah. He took some samples. He took some samples of the Lemba from Berengwa in the Tadzembwa. It registered the 25%.
Okay.
Jewish.
25% Jewish.
Yes. Then it was repeated again, including the South African Lembas.
Yes.
In some other areas of the Lemba, it registered 45%.
Okay.
Now, when the Israel government heard about about us, that there's something happened to some people in Zimbabwe, they approached me.
The Israeli government approached you?
Yes, yes. They sent me the kit. Said, can you get some samples? We don't take blood. We only take saliva from the chicks. Okay. So I collected saliva on about 60 Lembas, then about 10 non-Lembas. Then I sent them to Israel. I told the person was my contact there that the samples you took, said, now, as long as we are coming here, we have to meet. So I met him in Jerusalem. He said, my friend, those samples you brought here, they have caused a stir here in Israel. I said, why do you say so? I said, no, look, you see, there's some blacks there from Ethiopia who do the cleaning the hotels and all that. He said, that boy you are seeing there, his percentage is about 26%. But on you, it's 70%. 70%.
That's significant.
But so as you can see, what I'm trying to point out here is that by so doing, we should be very clear that it's not skin color that says a person is Jewish. It's ridiculous that there are people who are black, they are not Jewish. Like the black Hebrew Israelites. absolute garbage. You deal with your identity issues and thing. Yes, there are people who've traced themselves from a DNA perspective, like the gentleman who was on Wakanda. Yeah, he clearly found that within his DNA, he comes from the Lemba through a certain line of thinking. Okay? It's DNA. It's not just claiming. It's not just coming out here, walking out here and claiming it. It doesn't work like that.
Dr. Rapson Uriga, my friend, is the leader of the Lemba tribe in Zimbabwe. This is his first historical visit in Israel. He came here to get a grant from Ben Tzvi Institute, who just initiated for the first time grants for research in diverse Jewish communities.
About the Lemba customs that goes back so far to the history of the Jewish people.
Yes, as an ancient community which hails from the ancient kingdom of Israel and came to Africa via Yemen and established themselves in southern Africa. We have customs that goes back to pre-rabbinic Judaism, if I may use the term that is there.
Of course.
In terms of sacred times, in terms of rituals, of which the central one is circumcision and keeping of Shabbat, observing the coming of the new moon, celebrating Pesach, of which the word that we grew up knowing is Pesach, and also celebrating the coming of the new year and many other sacred times.
That's why I believe we should be very firm in our view of such identity crisis people. It had nothing to do with skin color to begin with, without. But there are people that are very firm. I watched one particular video of a gentleman from Zimbabwe. He was trying very hard to emphasize he is Lemba and he is Jew, and therefore the Jews are black. I'm like, brother, it doesn't have to be one or that, okay? So relax. You found your identity, that's good, but that does not deny the other person's thingy. But identity crisis does this, and we should be very clear with it. And if people can't approach this thing from a reasonable perspective, we should just leave it there. You know, other people, they are dealing with mental illness. We are dealing with mental illness issues. It's just that social media hypes all these things up. There are people that just don't like their own cultures. And as a result of them not liking their own culture, they would rather ascribe that or ascribe something else. You don't have to be a thievery. Made up a word. Play thievery of other people's identity to think. Why? Because you can see clearly there are people who, being black, still are Jewish. They carry that not only in their DNA, but in their history and so forth. They can trace it all the way back. It goes back to that. And so to just claim something that there are black people that can attribute that to their history. And there are people that have done so through their history and their DNA. And so for people just to come out, which is why I think the issue here is having to deal with the traumas of race debates. You know, racism, having to deal with all of those things. People are still in that in that piece of struggling between all of that and that information on how to dispense and deal with all of that. But that does not mean play thievery of other people's identity because you can't trace back yours. But now everyone must be Jewish, every black person must be Jewish. Yeah. No, we should not endorse that, and we should stand far as possible from that. And when people bring that up, you will remember, what's her name, Carrie Ann, she tried to take that message to Gino Jennings, and Gino Jennings said, hey, you have a crisis issue, you have an identity crisis issue. It's an identity crisis. When a person is struggling to find themselves, then you want to teach others, and you yourself are still in struggle, creates very big problems. There are people who are black, who are Jewish. You can trace it back into their DNA. There are people who are Jewish, who are white. And so to say, oh, no, those ones are not, you know what? When I show us where are the real ones, where are they? And I've seen pastors falling within that trap of trying to kind of like strip. No, those are not thingy. I saw Abel Damina. I don't know why he got into that. Like, sure, you want to enter into anti-Semitism, but anyways, it is what it is.